Ladies and gentlemen, those were the headlines, and now let's put our focus on the top story on the show today, and that's related to the gaming industry, which is all set for a reset. And this after the Government of India floated draft gaming rules and has invited feedback on these rules till October 31st. Remember, the gaming law provides for a framework for banning online real money games besides promotion of social games. And these draft rules lay out the framework for a couple of things. Number one, the establishment of a gaming authority. Now, that has been envisioned as a statutory corporate body with powers akin to a civil court. It will also have the authority to register online social games and esports and maintain a national registry of approved games and decide whether a game qualifies as a legitimate offering or an online money game. Other than that, there is a grievance redressal mechanism that's also been featured in these draft rules, and both esports and social games will require compulsory registration with the authority. And a certificate of registration will be valid for up to 5 years. In fact, the absence of a certificate will cease the game's operation, representation, or advertisement as a registered offering. Other than that, these draft gaming rules also provide for imposition of penalties for non-compliance. Is also a section which talks about repayment of user funds that have been collected before the commencement of the act. In fact, according to the draft, authorized officers will have the power to search, seize and arrest without warrant. So a lot of discussions are going on in the policy circles as far as these draft gaming rules are concerned, to discuss more on what these rules really entail for the gaming ecosystem. What's the feedback that the industry has for the government? Let's bring on board Rajan Navani, the founder and CEO of Jet Synthesis, to get a sense of what the industry's feedback on these draft rules is. Thank you very much, Rajan, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. Let's get your first thoughts on these draft gaming rules which have been published for stakeholder feedback.
Pleasure to be here with you. I think a large part of this discussion has now been going on, ever since the bill came in and, the real money games were banned. And I think what has come out in these draft rules is, of course, what has got banned and how that will be dealt with, very seriously, and I think coming out with that intention. But it is also talking on a very positive note about, encouraging and promoting the social video gaming and esports industry, which is, a large $200 billion global industry today. It's nearly, a third of the overall media entertainment industry, larger than Hollywood, Bollywood, music, and all of that combined. So I think, the opportunity for India to play a much larger role, not only in India, but even in the larger global ecosystem, is what I, really look at this as a framework to be able to enable. Having said that, I think, some of the things that have, been laid out, as I said, are open for, discussion, and I think different stakeholders are, getting spoken with to see, to make this a collaborative process of, how do we, make sure that there is enough protection given to, younger people and others who are, playing games, etc., but also not prohibiting innovation. So I think as industry, what we're saying, we should be able to figure out a framework that, encourages innovation, enables India, to unlock its true potential, which is going to be a very significant part of the future of this industry, given that, nearly 1 in 11 people in the world is a young Indian under the age of 25, who is going to not only probably be an athlete and win medals for the country, but also someone who's going to be a large part of, the livelihood ecosystem that's going to get generated.
Absolutely, Rajan.
Exciting times. Yeah.
Right. Right. So essentially what you're stating is that these draft rules clarify on the intent of the government. But given the fact that you're a stakeholder of the ecosystem, you're part of the gaming industry, where does the government really need to be flexible as far as these rules are concerned? And is there any particular section where more clarity is needed?
I think there will be sections where clarity will be needed for sure. And I think that will evolve as, a deeper analysis is done of what this is. Now, like say, for example, with esports, esports is again a very interesting future potential for India. But, esports being part of multi-event sports, right, or multi-sport events only could be a limitation because, today you're you have an ecosystem that is being built globally, where the best gamers, compete at the highest level in the world, like any other sport. They derive their livelihoods from that. They become heroes of the sport. They will get brands to endorse, and these are all young people, right? Who are the best in this art or in the craft or in this sport, and they're athletes. And now, how do you ensure that they are able to take these up from a longer term career? Do we have an ecosystem that can support coaching? The infrastructure that is required for that, the number of tournaments that we will need at different grassroots levels to make that happen. So states have already started doing that.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, we ourselves are creating a very large thing with one of the states in India next month. So I think it has started for the first time. There is a large understanding of this space, but then limiting it by putting it only as a part of some larger sports events might be limiting. Given that the Olympics has now actually made esports Olympics in 2027 a separate Olympics. So you have a Summer Olympics, you have a Winter Olympics, you have a Paralympics, and then now you have an esports Olympics. And given that this is a starting level playing field for the world, I think India has a much better chance, right? Like you can see in Paralympics, we're doing much better than because we are coming in with the rest of the world. So we would like to see something that I think evolve.
Right, Rajan. So we'll have to see how these rules eventually get formulated, the final rules, and what do they look like. But since you're a part of the ecosystem, I'm sure you're having conversations with your colleagues and peers. What's the kind of bearing that these rules will have on daily operations of gaming companies, and which segments will be impacted most?
So I'm again limiting my comments to the video gaming, the social gaming sector and esports, which are very clearly, being promoted, right? Because this is the industry which is the larger global $200 million industry, which we have also been a part of, right? Now, I think there on the social gaming side, I think different companies will have, different kinds of observations depending on, how they make their IPs available not only to India, but even for global audiences, right? Today, we are very, very clear that it's high time India started creating products for the world. And as we do that, you have to build products that, can be played around the world, right? So you have to think from a larger global context, and I think as companies think of that from India, I think understanding the global ecosystem and also understanding what India is looking at, I think we have to build better alignment there. And I think that
absolutely.
I don't think there will be a challenge around that.
Right. So build products that are not just built for India, but can be scaled up globally as well. But Rajan, what are the concerns which you have at the moment as far as implementation of these draft rules is concerned? We do know that the rules will be finalized, after which an implementation will take place. Do you have any concerns at the moment?
I think it is early days really to think of how that will happen. As I said, if the intention is to promote, support, and grow a particular industry, I think the framework will also be more of an enabling one rather than one which is not going to enable. At least this is our belief, and of course the devil will be in the details, and we will see how all of that plays out. But having said that, as I said, the fact that we look at gaming studios now in India, which are beginning to create more products globally as responsible studios. So there's always, for the last 5 years, in the video gaming sector, particularly the social gaming side, we have been encouraging studios and others to be very responsible. Whether it's age-appropriate content, whether it is giving breaks after a certain amount of time when games are played. So all of this is a responsible behavior. I think that industry also has to do. Government and industry have to work closely together to ensure that we get the right outcomes both for India and through India for the world.
Right. Rajan, let me ask you one final question before we let you go. Now, when you look at the draft gaming rules, it also suggests that authorized officers will have the power to search, seize, and arrest without warrant. Of course, there are some concerns that are arising on how this particular aspect could be misused. What is your opinion on that, and where do you weigh on this particular section?
So, my understanding is this is for the real money gaming and what has been banned in the country, right? I mean, that's the clear understanding that anyone who is trying to operate in an area which is banned in the country, that is the areas that will have to be covered. So that is really how we are looking at this, because for whatever reason, this categorization of all of these sectors have come under one bill. Globally they are wagering, betting. I mean, our honorable Prime Minister also on a Mann Ki Baat, used the word gambling. Those are different industries, right? So I think the message from this, what at least I understand, or the way one interprets is, it is more towards things that are not permitted or banned in the country. If some of that is being implemented, then there will be severe action against that. But again, as I said, one would need to see how it gets framed eventually. How does it get implemented? And especially areas like social gaming, which a lot more will be with the Ministry of Information Broadcasting, esports, which would be more with the sports ministry, especially when it comes to promotion, growing, and the budgets from government, etc., to make that happen, will probably become much clearer, as we move forward. So my personal belief is that as better clarity emerges amongst the different sectors of gaming, or the social gaming and esports, I think it will be a much easier thing for India at least.
Right. Right, definitely for esports. But Rajan, like you, all of us are also waiting more clarity on these rules. Of course, the final deadline for submission of the feedback is October 31st, the end of this month, after which the final rules will be put out. And of course, over the course of the next couple of months, we'll be hearing back from you and, of course, other members of the industry in terms of the clarity, in terms of implementation, and, of course, whether there is a coordination that's needed across these ministries, or is there going to be one point of a focus for all the issues that the industry really has, and how the government intends to then address those concerns. Well, on that note, thank you very much for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now, Rajan. Always a pleasure having you and hearing your thoughts.
Likewise, thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, time now for us to step into a very short commercial break. But after the break, another very exclusive interaction that's coming up with sports streaming platform FanCode. Don't go anywhere.